Hi everyone, this is the Shop Stool Podcast, episode 5 of season 3. As always, I'm going to start by introducing my two co-hosts. Joey, how's it going?
I'm not bad. Good, in fact, you could say.
Cryptic is the word. Yes. And Bryan, how are you?
Average, as you could say.
Wow. Well, my name's Robin, and I'm amazing. I'm fantastic.
Oh, great.
Good. So then we end up somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. So welcome to the show, everyone. We've got a very interesting topic to start on, and that's Joey's got some very interesting news to share with all of us. So why don't you take it away, Joe?
Interesting, perhaps. Interesting, scary. We're selling the workshop. We're moving out, selling the house as well. We never thought we would sell the workshop because it was such a prime. We bought this awesome piece of commercial land. We have a small, 65 square meter dwelling behind the workshop, which we used to live in. So we have a fully legal home workshop, home and income type situation.
So just to clarify, so your workshop and home are on the same block?
They used to, we have a small dwelling behind my workshop, which used to be a car park. I don't live there anymore. We currently rent it out, which is great at the moment. It pays a fair amount of the running costs of having the commercial property.
So you're selling your workshop and you're selling your house, two separate buildings. Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And so because a few reasons is really, life moves on a bit, and what we always have wanted is a much more, not secluded, but a bit away from everything. Nice piece of land that is mainly flat. We have a very slopey home section, and it's not so fun for the kids. It's difficult to hang out with the kids, and we're pretty family oriented. So having just a better kind of future outlook for work, living, life, everything mixed in. So we're going to try and find a piece of land that we can build everything on one land, piece of dirt. So a separate workshop shed, separate house, and that's the plan.
How far out of Auckland do you reckon you have to go to get that?
We can probably do it pretty much where we are.
Really?
I don't think we'll have to. We're right on the boundary between Auckland and Northland, and it would be really cheap. Well, I say really much cheaper for us to just go 20 minutes north, and we would be in Northland. But there is a bit of an extra hike back down to the city where all my work is, and we've looked around, and we can probably deal with the land prices, even though they're outrageous. The land prices are workable if we make a few sacrifices with what the house actually looks like. So, that's where we're at. So, 2 days ago, we signed the pieces of paper to say that the agent can start selling their workshop, and
brilliant.
See what happens.
When does the house go up?
Probably maybe another 2 weeks. Everything's come down to me to finish the kitchen off. So the kitchen was never really fully finished, and so I've got to make it look presentable. My dad's painted most of the inside of the house again just to make it all look snazzy. But so I'm kind of flat out at work, so it's a bit tricky to do another kitchen on the side. So not exactly sure when that's going to happen.
Are you going to design the house?
Yes.
You are? Are you going to build it?
I'm not going to build it. I could, but I don't want to deal with that. I mean, budget is really the problem.
Yeah.
What we're probably going to... my wife and Holly and I have always wanted a very industrial, commercial, like a loft type feel. Big open space, very simple. And really the best way to do that is just to get a big tin shed put on and then fit it out as a house. and they're pretty bloody cheap. I mean, you can get like 60,000. You've got yourself a house, like a big shed done. So that's probably what we're going to go for. And then,
But that's not going to have anything inside. There's no internals.
no, that's just a shell. But
Yeah.
the shell with we've got to put some septic systems in and whatever. But because it's a self-contained structural thing, you can do whatever you like on the inside. It's just sky's the limit.
But
you just
in terms of cost, like once you've factored in all those extra walls and plumbing and septic tanks, are you now getting close to a traditional house?
Not if you take into consideration labour.
Yeah, because I guess you can do the majority of that.
Almost all of it. Myself and my dad, who's still a licensed builder, will work on it. It's like labour costs. Like if you hired a crew of guys to come and build a house or whatever, half of it's labour. And my experiences with builders lately are just shocking. That they'll take on 3 jobs at once, and they'll be at your job every third week for a week. Because they're trying to do 3 at once, and that's not how it should be done.
Yeah,
I have a real problem with how builders are treating the way they run their jobs at the moment. I really am not happy with with how people are just put on the back burner.
Is that, do you think, because there's an over demand?
Yeah, there's huge demand and no materials, which doesn't
I
help.
was going to say the materials thing must play into it as well.
Yeah.
It's funny, after the other week's show talking about costs of materials and plywood and stuff running out, I got emails from my plywood supplier saying prices will rise as of tomorrow. It's like, usually it's just the annual price rise, and they just went, nah, as of 1st of June, everything's going up.
The next day is a bit rough because, if you've got 10 jobs tendered, that's pretty tough.
Yeah, fortunately I got mine in the week before, but that's really exciting. Are you going to tell me you're going to document the whole thing on YouTube?
God.
Come on, Joy.
I suppose I will.
This is what the people pay no bucks for.
Yeah. This is what people pay absolutely nothing for. Yeah.
This is your chance. Have you seen the Samurai Carpenter? Have you seen his latest thing?
I have not. I don't even watch woodworking anymore. What's he done?
He's bought an island somewhere. I think he's in Canada, isn't he?
Poor guy's not making any money.
He's bought an island, and he has bought a barge, and he's building a house and a workshop on this island. But he's starting by building the barge.
What an adventure!
Like literally, he's bought like a hulk, like a coal hulk or something.
I take it his business, his venture's working then.
Yeah, he's obviously making enough money out of YouTube, eh?
Because he wasn't a while back. That's what he said.
So,
but
what size?
Yeah, go on.
What size? What size shed are you thinking of putting in?
There's 2 options. And we haven't done full costings on it, but one option is to make one giant shed, and I'll put it like a double wall, sound wall between them, and like split off one half for the workshop, and I say half, like 2/3 for the workshop and 1/3 for the house, and that would be about 360 square meters or something, and we get about 200, about the same what I have now, about 200 square meters for the workshop.
But surely the noise is good. I mean, that's going to drive.
I don't
crazy.
know. Like, I'm not sure that it's that big a deal. Like, you can do some pretty good things with soundproofing. If you make 2 walls that are not touching each other by say 50 mil, and kind of rubber gaskets around them, you're going to deaden most of that sound. I used to work. When I first started in a 4-car garage, which was in a basement type scenario, and we soundproofed that floor, and my in-laws used to live above it, and there was like no noise. We had a hanging ceiling and proper sound insulation and stuff, and did what we could to make it a really dense mid-floor, and it was pretty well soundproof.
So this is, how many workshops are you on to now? You're currently in your second or your
second
third?
real
Second.
one, yeah.
Okay.
with the sound, it's an interesting one because I've talked about this in the past with Jamie, my wife. I'm now underneath the house, and the noise is unbearable because I've done nothing. So there's 19 mil of pine flooring between her and the thicknesser. But if I was to buy a new property and put my shed 50 meters away, so the noise is gone, what happens if I lop an arm off? You know, I'm that much further away from any help. And yes, okay, that's a stupid example. But you know what I mean? Like, from her perspective, she's always said, I don't know if I want you to disappear out there, because then I don't know what's going on. If you're working late at night, you know, it's a different story. So you kind of, I guess what you're doing, you meet halfway.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't work late at night, I guess would be my... You know, I'm pretty well like 8 till 3:30. That's when I work. So, and yeah, I could be working by myself and I could enjoy myself. But you know, I've usually got my phone in my pocket, and that's about the only answer I have for that. Yeah. So option 2 would be to make 2 sheds, which I'm much more liking the idea of. Or we could do some cool things with how we orient 2 sheds together to create some kind of shelter, depending on wind direction and where north is, and how the site would let us create some kind of courtyard type area with using 2 buildings, and maybe link them with a little tunnel or something like that. But that's kind of where we're at, and we're just trying to find some land and get some money for the existing workshop. Trying to work out how we logistically go about selling it and still use it for a little bit while we get the other one built and then move into it, and then
because you're gonna have some kind of you're gonna have some downtime, surely.
Yes, probably. But what we want to do is ideally sell the property and then lease it back off the new owners for 6 months or something. Have the money in our pocket and then build the shed and then just move out, and pretty much move in 2 or 3 weeks, just move the workshop and start up where we left off. That would be the plan. But it's a bit of a undertaking.
Very exciting.
And these sort of lots that you're looking at, I've never bought land before. I've only bought a house. You talked about a septic tank, so that's your sewer is taken care of. In terms of water and electric, do most blocks have them?
No one's got water where we are. Like, it would all be tank water, which is what we have now. There are a few sites that are completely off grid, and the price reflects it. So we would have to put solar or wind turbines or something on. That's maybe a bridge too far for me. I don't think... we have had numbers done, and I could completely run my workshop off a relatively small solar setup, which is the best way to go, because you're actually using the power that is being created during the day. At this time, the research I've done and people I've talked to, the battery packs that they have for house solar systems to actually capture that energy while the batteries work, their warranties and kind of lifetime don't really match up yet versus the cost. So you're looking at kind of like 10 grand, 9,500 for a battery that lasts 10 years and won't be paid off for like 12. And so you're like, well, this is not a really good ratio. So the best way to have solar is to actually use the solar power as your
source,
generating it. Certainly that seems to be the best option here. Australia's probably got different setups because you probably generate more. I'm not sure what battery systems have got there, but so that's what we'd have to look at, and I would like to do that anyway. So if
you want to have a chat to Jam at Like Butter.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking he's right into it.
Hugely. They're now, I know they've been feeding back into the grid for a while, but they've now done electric vehicle powered off the solar panels as well.
Well, I'd like to do that. We would eventually like to have an electric vehicle that we charge off the roof, which would be awesome. I think for what I do, I would need some grid power, and just for cloudy days, pretty much.
Yeah.
Most sites have got power to the edge of the boundary, but nothing else, no other services. So the only other thing you have to check before you buy land around here is that you can actually get internet access. There's got to be a cell tower within Kui, otherwise you got nothing. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty major one. If you don't have internet, if you're in a black spot, then it's no deal.
And I guess with all the videos you're going to be uploading of the progress, you're going to
I've been making so many videos. For the first time, this might lead into what we're going to talk about next. For the first time, I started making a video and got halfway through it and just turned the camera off and left. Left it, just didn't finish.
Is that because the project went wrong or because you just couldn't be asked?
Yeah, because I was like, this is actually turning out pretty cool. And then a mistake happened, and I was like, I can fix the mistake. I can't fix the mistake, but it's not as bad as it could be. But people are going to see it, and all the comments are just going to be about this thing, and I can't be bothered dealing with it. So no more video.
That's so true, though. The number of times that I've got into a project and thought, if I just stopped filming, this project would be done tomorrow. It would just be done tomorrow. But because of the sick obsession. So what was the mistake? What happened?
So one of the few posts I made recently on Instagram was this herringbone table, walnut table with herringbone veneer. Pretty cool table, worked out nicely enough. A little bit of background. It was interesting. It was one of these ones where the client said, we just need you to make a tabletop and a bench seat top and then just drop it off to us and we'll put the legs on. And I was like, okay, sure, we can do that. And then I said, by the way, what are the legs that you're planning on? Oh, we found these steel legs that you can there's a website here, you can just order steel legs. It has a little 100 by 100 bracket on the top of the leg, and you can just screw it onto the bottom of your tabletop. And I said, okay, well, what's going to stop your table sagging in the middle? You can't just put 4 legs on a piece of plywood and hope it stays flat.
I think you asked that, hey? Because I wonder how many people would have.
Exactly, so, and especially if you're going to spend the money that I'm charging to put a custom veneered top on a piece of plywood. I said, okay, so I'll make up a bracing system on the bottom of the table. You get the guy to send the legs here so I can fit the walnut to where the legs are integrating in the corners. And while I'm at it, I might as well just screw the legs to the table because I have to put insert nuts in and you don't know how to do that. So I ended up making the whole table with their legs. The problem was, I'm kicking myself for this, when I had spent probably a full day laying out the herringbone pattern for the veneer, and I just had the 2 edges to do. And so it's just these little pieces with 45 degree cuts down each edge. And I laid them all out. Well, I laid one side out, and the other side I gave to my assistant and said, you do that side, I'll do this side. And then we're ready first thing in the morning, because it was late in the afternoon. I said, first thing tomorrow morning, we're going to glue this up and put it in the vacuum press so I can have the vacuum bag running all day, and I'm here to watch it, mainly because I used a slow dry glue, which needed a long time. So I wanted to be pressing glue at 7:30 in the morning. I wanted it in the press. Anyway, he does all that. Pressed it, worked really well, pulled it out of the bag, and I pulled all the masking tape off. And the side that he had done, he had put all the pieces the wrong orientation and didn't continue the pattern.
That's amazing.
So I was just I just about cried. I was like, it's came together so nicely. It was the nicest top I've made in that style with a veneer. I did everything right. I learned from my mistakes from 4 other tabletops. And the bloody pattern is not consistent.
You didn't see it when you put the bag on?
No, because you have to fully masking tape each piece on.
Okay.
And all the grain orientation was pretty much covered. Couldn't see anything. because what the problem was, these pieces on each side could have been either way up, and it was what made the pattern continue was the actual orientation of the grain running this way or this way, perpendicular or non. So the saving grace is that they're very small pieces, maybe 80 mil long, and because the walnut's great and that its color variation is pretty great, so you get lots of light and darks, and when you look at it, all you see is light and dark steps, and it matches with all the other light and dark pattern. It's not till you actually look at what way the grain is running where you go, oh, it should be running 90 degrees the other way down that little edge. So I just saw it and was like, what can I do? How do you fix it? I can't fix that. I didn't do it, but my name's on it. If the client really didn't like it, well, it's not fixable. It's not something that's fixable, but it is something that all I figured I could do is say, well, here's what am I going to give you, like 25% discount? I mean, what can you do? I'm not going to spend another week making a whole new top.
Well, I was going to say, would that not have been the solution?
Well, there you go. I mean, I'm completely losing money. Not only am I not making money, but I'm out of pocket at that point.
Yeah.
The cost of the materials.
Yeah, but and maybe this is a very interesting thing to pick up, because as the woodworker with the client, I would assume at that point your back pocket is going to be pretty empty now, because you can only save face. That's all you can do. You cannot expect a profit at that point because you've made a mistake. Is that not necessarily the way you should be approaching these things?
You could go either way, I suppose. I've done both in the past. I've said, look, I cocked this up. What do you want to do about it? This is option A, option B. And I've said to people outright, generally when I say to someone, I've cocked this up, I can't do really much about it. I can offer you a discount. Generally, people say, look, don't worry about it. Most of the time. In this case, it's something that you really have got to know what you're looking for.
Okay.
I'm looking at it now, Joey. I struggle to see it. If you hadn't have pointed it out.
Yeah.
Nah.
So I said,
no
look, I'm just gonna not say a word.
Yep.
If anyone picks up on it at some point, I'll go, oh shit. What are we gonna do about it?
I hear that your clients are big fans of the podcast, though. So
yeah, who knows?
Yeah, that's a really tough one.
It's just one of those things. Like, we make mistakes, and I mentioned to you guys earlier on the show that. Before the show, as woodworkers, typically our plan is to make a living from what we do, and we grow a brand and business around what we can do. And I guess at the end of the day, our names become our brand, or our company names become our brand and our reputation. And you get to a point. And I would say most woodworkers would be like this, where you're busy enough where you probably need a full-time extra pair of hands, but you don't actually need them full-time. And there's this annoying amount of, sometimes you just don't need someone hanging about, but then the very next day, I need to lift this big thing from there to there and I can't do it. I need someone there. I wish someone could just sand that, well, I can do this, and then we'd be finished by the end of the week. And so then you say, okay, I'm going to have to get an extra pair of hands. That's how business works. Great. As soon as you get that second person on board, they are representing you, at least to the client's point of view. The client has hired you because of reputation or whatever else it is. And when a mistake happens, which happens, it's on you. It's my problem that there was a problem with that walnut tabletop. I showed my assistant first thing in the morning the next day. I said, "What do you reckon about the tabletop? Have a look." He didn't spot it. I said, "Look at this."
So it probably wasn't that bad then.
Yeah, but it's not right.
Bryan, have you had any mishaps with you? Because you've got
Yeah, I've had interns that have made mistakes, but shit happens. Like, it's usually been fixable to some degree. Like, in terms of, there might be a bit of material cost. It's kind of been more than their day's wages or whatever. But no, nothing terrible, to be honest. Like, and I know what you're saying. Like, I used to have a really good arrangement with a furniture maker that worked in the workshop, sort of just in the same precinct as me, but in his own workshop. And we would sort of, if we needed something lifted, we'd buddy up.
Yeah.
If he needed me for a job, I'd keep tally of my hours. He'd come and do the same number of hours for me. And for anybody starting a business, I would say that is by far and away the best way to get help. Because you're not trying to necessarily train someone on the job. Like, people are coming in with some level of competency. But also feeling as though you've got a support network as well. Like, if you are in desperate need, you've got someone there to help you. Like, it's a really good way to work.
And when you've had those moments in the past, what is do you have a particular way of dealing with it? Does it turn into a teaching moment, or do you find the best thing is just to not brush it under the table, but we've made a mistake, there's no need to talk about it, let's just move on?
No, I would say we've made a mistake. What would be your suggestion for fixing it? And then kind of go from there, to be honest. But I've never really got upset at anybody making mistakes, because I've made way more mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it must be horrific for the intern. Like, especially because you've been there and you've seen all the work go into it. Joey, your assistant must have been mortified.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I have, at this point, much higher expectations of someone who's been working for me for 4.5, 5 years almost. I expect, like, we have ways we do things. Like, this is how we make a cabinet.
I'm not gonna lie, you sound like a tough boss.
Well, this is how we make a cabinet. We've been doing it for years. Here's some plans, go make that cabinet. And I walk out to the workshop and see things completely done not that way. I'm like, why are these two bits of wood glued together? Oh, shit. There goes a sheet of plywood. It's like, what? That's like, oh, man. That's infuriating. So
it is really hard when you compare it to digital businesses and things where it's just people's time that's been wasted. But when there is a material cost that's involved, as well as the time, and then the time that you take to fix it.
Yeah, that was my lunch break today. I was fixing shit, and didn't get lunch and didn't get to work on my work either. And it's like, now we're behind and down materials, and now the job is not really how I wanted it to be built, because I've had to join a couple bits of plywood together, but that's what we had to do.
And when that client looks at it and shows his buddy the mistake, it's Joey Chalk made that mistake. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, they're the jobs you don't put your signature on the back of, because someone's going to come along and go, why the shit did he join this piece of wood in the middle?
Get the assistant to sign it now.
Oh, God. Yeah, so it's the cost, the material costs. The Bryan, I have never done this yet, but would you or could you have you said, hey, look, you made a mistake, fair play, we all make mistakes, that costs $200 and something to get new materials in?
I don't have the heart to do it.
I don't think I do either.
Because then your relationship is just over. Like, it's done. Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of lucky enough that all the interns that have worked for me have been really honest and upfront about if they make a mistake. they'll come and tell me about it. They won't try to hide it. I mean, it might be a source of embarrassment, but it's not like a shameful thing. It's like, I've made a mistake, I'm sorry. Right, and then we've worked together to fix it. So, I mean, maybe if it was a mistake that cost a few $1,000s, it might be different. But when you're talking about $50 here, $100 there,
it's different. I agree. But at the end of the day, you are still losing money.
You do, yeah.
And the person who made the mistake is getting their full pay at the end of the week and just going off to the pub, and you're sitting there going, right, I have less money this week.
Joys of self-employment.
Exactly. Yeah.
And have you ever let anyone go for it? For a mistake? Okay, actually,
I assume you're asking Joey and not me.
Let me rephrase it because I'm sure there's been times where you've had to let someone go because of multiple things that have just started to add up, and it's got to the point where. But have you ever let someone go because of a mistake?
Not in furniture making. When I was a builder, right before I ended up getting sick and all that jazz, I had 4 full-time builders and I needed another one. And I went through this whole awful ordeal of, what do you call it? What do you do? Interviews and stuff. Just sat there for 2 days interviewing bloody people about reading CVs and awful stuff. And so I ended up employing this guy who had all the right qualifications and said all the right things. Took him to the job site, said the job was to like re-roof this little lean-to garage thing. So rip the roof off, fix up any rot or whatever, just throw a few new bits of timber in, and then we'll get the new roof on. Should have most of it done by the end of the day. See you later. I come back at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon and nothing had been done. Like, no work had been done.
Where was he?
And he was sitting there pulling out nails of the roof. And I said, What the shit? What's going on? Oh, well, we never actually got taught how to do roofing when I did my qualification, because I got my qualification while I was working on roadworks and there was no roofing to be done. So they just signed us off anyway.
Jeez.
Yeah, see you later.
Yeah, I was like, okay, no more work. That's it.
What's the process there? Because now do you have... I mean, in my career in IT, there's so many hoops that you have to jump through to let someone go.
I think at the time they had just here introduced a 30 or 90 day trial period.
Probation period, yeah, fair enough.
Where you can sack him on the spot.
Sounds like he sacked himself.
I mean, yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, it was just the worst thing. And I think I ended up having to pay him for the day and whatever. Yeah. Just stupid. The problem is where I am, even if like my assistant did some, what would you call it, like gross negligent thing, I don't know, that seems like terms for letting someone go generally. I don't know what that would be. Let's say I had to get rid of him. There's very little people around where I am that could do the job.
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of just keep everything running as smoothly as possible, because I do need someone to help me out. So having someone with some skill set and some experience of what we do at least is much easier than having to retrain someone, which takes at least a year of retraining, even if you've got experience.
At least a year, yeah.
Yeah, even if you're experienced, you still have to retrain in the processes of this particular systems,
And not only that, I don't know necessarily what your working environment's like, Joey, although at this stage it sounds pretty terrifying. But there's still some nuances and those unspoken understandings that you have that takes time. There's no way to know that on
absolutely. The spot. Yeah. I mean, typically, I try to be as hands off as possible. I'm just like, here's a drawing, here's a 3D model, this is what our new job is starting, and this is where we need to start. do you need some help with the cut list? Okay, here's some basic cut list measurements. Do this, and then after that, everything is based off this first carcass we're going to make. If you're going to make a kitchen, let's make this one carcass, and then everything is just based off measuring from that, and you can work your way along the cabinets or whatever. Okay, you're good. I'm going to do something else. I'll see you at the end of the day. That's pretty much how I work. Unless I look over and see something like a sheet of plywood being cut in half where it shouldn't be, I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Stop.
That costs $200.
Yeah.
Very good.
Bryan, how long did it take you before you got your first intern? Whereabouts in your career were you?
I was probably 2 years full time, I reckon. And she approached me. I wasn't looking. And I was like, oh yeah, it could probably actually be helpful. And then it's just, I mean, I haven't had to let anybody go. It's just things have sort of seen their natural course, and people have gone on and formed their own businesses. So yeah, it's been pretty fluid for me so far. But like I said, having the support network of a friend who's a furniture maker, shout out to Scotty of the Timber Shack. But yeah, that definitely makes things easier. So if your intern, because I wouldn't have her in more than 1 to 2 days a week usually. I just can't afford it.
I was just going to ask about that how that worked. I didn't want to get into specifics about actual monies, but I don't even know officially what an intern would mean relative to
it's a nice cloudy area.
Yeah, so what
so
do you
subcontractor?
Can you pay an intern like over here there's different rates for if you're a young person or first job type apprentice level, you can charge below minimum wage.
I don't pay below minimum wage.
No, I wouldn't either, but
I pay my interns more than what I earn on an hourly rate.
Right. Yeah.
Once I package everything in.
Yeah.
And I obviously couldn't do that if I had a full-time employee, but if it's somebody for 1 or 2 days, it helps me get one job moving while I'm moving on something else.
Yeah.
Then it kind of makes sense. But no, I don't know, pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
That's right. That's the scariest thing about when you first think about, hey, an employee would really be helpful, and how much do they have to earn a week? And you go, holy shit, I've got to find that much extra money a week. Yep. And then you start really going, oh God, what are we doing?
I think it's obviously a big factor of why so many furniture businesses remain a one-person enterprise for so long.
Yeah.
And why jig videos on YouTube are so popular.
Yeah.
Would you hire a friend? Do you think?
Me? No.
No chance.
No. I either want somebody who has some experience on tools. They don't have to be an expert, but they have to be a really quick learner, and they have to ask the right questions. Not ask loads of questions. If people just bombard you with questions, there's nothing more frustrating. But asking the right questions is really key. And again, I've been really lucky with the people that have interned with me that they will ask questions. And again, I think it's probably a factor of my interns have all been female, that they're better at asking questions. I think if I had young guys come in, they would just push on, do it, and I'd look around and that plywood sheet would be cut in half exactly how you're describing.
Yeah, I've had a teenage kid help me out a little bit, and it's since gone because it's too much. Too much. I know everything.
Yeah, and
I'm listening, but I'm not listening.
Do you have an example of a good question? I mean, obviously, we can all imagine what a bad question would be. But what's a good question?
Probably firstly around safety, like they'll ask, how to feed something into a table saw, where they should be standing, their stance, whether when to use a featherboard, blade height, just really simple things like that. That I think if it was me coming into somebody's workshop, I'd probably just do it the way I know, or the way I thought I knew. But I don't know. It's a generalization, but I find that women are a lot more open to ask the question if they're not 100% sure about it.
It's interesting. I was just going to say, I think I lost my train of thought now.
But change the topic. I did the best. I always put it off, and I don't know why I put it off, because I work in a damp workshop where all my stainless steel goes rusty. Sorry, all my cast iron goes rusty.
That's a bad environment.
Working underwater.
It's late at night. We've been in lockdown for a week. Give me a break.
Yeah.
All my cast iron goes rusty, and I restored my tabletops of my saw and my bandsaw this week, and it makes such a difference. Such a difference. The friction, like especially cutting sheets and things like that. All right, it's like it's the most underrated thing you can do in your workshop.
How about this? I don't know. You probably don't, but the best thing I have is I can't remember. It's one of the blade companies I use. The rep came around and said, "Have you tried this?" It's like a lubricating spray for your tabletop surfaces, and just when it starts getting sticky, you just spray down your whatever it is, and it's just like ice. You just slide sheets along it. It's just like butter. It's so good.
I've always used inox, and it works fine. Like,
what is that?
It's kind of like a WD-40, but I think has it got more or less silicone in it?
I was going to say you want like no silicone if you're going to be putting any finish on it, but that's why this stuff is specifically made. The stuff I use is specifically made for woodworkers, and it's a non-silicone lubricant, and it doesn't last forever. It lasts maybe do it once a week, spray down the surfaces, and then it just glides. It's so much easier it's amazing how much less effort you have to put in to using the tool, which is way safer.
Way safer. You feel the difference on the blade of the table saw.
Yeah,
it's incredible. And then if you're trying to cut miters and things, the blade doesn't kind of bind and burn on the miters. Yeah, it's big.
That's a good tip out there. Yeah, really good.
I discovered that with my bandsaw, cleaning the actual blade itself. How much more life you can get out of it. Talking about that, I don't know if I've asked you guys this before, but if you rotate the bandsaw in reverse, is that, while it's off, obviously, is that going to damage the motor, do you think? I can't remember if I've asked you guys this.
No, I mean, it's just an electric motor. They can run backwards, just change the polarity, so...
Okay. Because...
when it's off anyway. Like,
you're not like... I just thought maybe you anyway. I just take a cloth and just some meths and just run the thing backwards with the cloth, and it's amazing how much extra life you can get out of that, especially when you've been cutting things like Vic Ash. I find is really it just gums up that blade awfully, and it makes such a huge difference.
It's a pain actually. Well, I've got a jet bandsaw, and it's got an electric brake on it, so I can't turn it by hand at all. It's a pain in the ass. So even when it's off, that brake holds it. Oh, interesting. It must be. I'm not sure how it does it, because even if it's unplugged, you can't turn it. Well, you can. It's like you've got to really force it, and it squeaks and squeals.
Like a geared mechanism or something.
Yeah, something. Because there's rules. I'm sure you guys must have similar rules, but machinery's got to turn off and stop spinning within a certain amount of seconds.
Yeah.
And so they just put electric brakes on everything.
My bandsaw doesn't have it. It's got an emergency stop, but it's got a big foot brake on it.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta smash into it, but it works.
That's probably... I've always wondered what that sound is with my bandsaw. When I switch it off, it winds down. It takes a while, and then as it stops, you get this weird like drone sound for a second or two, and then it stops. And I turned it off once at the bandsaw, and then went straight over, because I keep everything turned off at the wall. Turned off at the wall, and that sound didn't happen. So that's obvious.
Right.
That
it could be some kind of brake, although typically they should kick in immediately, but
mine takes probably about 5 seconds.
Interestingly, on my big table saw, it used to brake immediately. You'd like turn it off, and it would just like wind down. Like within 3 seconds, it stopped. But whatever mechanism makes that work has decided to sometimes work. So I think they say
It's a really handy thing with a table saw.
Really, it's super
the blade
safe.
to stop real fast.
Apparently, it's just a dust getting into the sensor or something or other, dust inside the cabinet, and I can't be bothered trying to find where that is. So.
Talking about tools, I had a... Oh, sorry, Brian, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, talking about tools, I don't know if you guys saw my post the other day, but a wee discussion with the Melbourne sort of furniture maker group on Instagram led to the discovery that there's going to be a wee bit more Bunnings bashing going on, but more aimed at Ryobi. If you buy Ryobi tools as a professional, your warranty is void.
Oh.
Yes.
How is that a thing?
What constitutes professional?
In the small print, it's like, if these are professional use, the warranty is void. So if you buy it in Bunnings using a Power Pass, it voids the warranty.
So is that like a trade account, a Power Pass?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can still go and use your business card, but you'd have to rock up to return it when it breaks. If it breaks. When it breaks.
But I mean,
when it breaks.
what makes you a professional if you're doing it full time?
Well, that's a very good question.
Is that a great,
I mean,
okay.
it's just...
Well, that's true. I could have I could have an account, and I could just, because if I'm building a house, a lot of my clients will get accounts with these companies, so they can just have the trade pricing and deal with the billing and everything directly, rather than have it go through a builder or a third party. It's a lot easier for a homeowner to keep track of bills if you have an account with the company. So that would make you not a tradesman, but you just happen to have an account, and now your warranty is void.
Yep. It's crazy.
So if my compressor goes up in smoke, then it's too bad. Actually,
Well, just bring it back, but you can't have purchased it on a trade discount card, and you can't say that you're from a business when you return it. It's just a weird thing for a tool company. Like, even all the really naff brands out there, I've never heard that before.
Yes. Speaking of discounts, last week I think I was going on about how it was to do with the Bunnings pricing and bollocks, and I said, if you just go to the trade version of whatever it is you're trying to buy, I think I gave the example about PVA glue. So I had to buy, for getting the house ready for sale, I had to buy a whole bunch of cabinet door handles, and we needed like 58 or something.
Jeez.
And because we wanted all the house to match, all the doors were just going to have the same cabinet handles everywhere. And if you go to Bunnings, they're like $15 each or whatever, depending what you're buying. But even if you go to the very cheapest ones, they're like expensive, and you times that by 50 something, and that's a lot of money.
Very expensive.
So I had a little bit of research. I had got a brochure from Mardeco, who is in New Zealand, at least, they're a commercial supplier of handles, and that's what they do, cabinet handles. I found one I liked, rang the lady, and she said, okay, yeah, I can sell these to you right now, or are you a business? I said, yeah, I do. I told her what I do. She said, oh, well, if we get you an account, you can have the 40% discount.
40%.
So I said, okay, sure thing, I'll take an account form, thank you, and then got 40% off the retail price.
Which I assume was already cheaper.
This is what everybody has to do. Just phone around and you will find these people.
Just go to the source. And it's the best example of what we were talking about. It's just, I do it on a daily basis. Like, the same thing, I had to buy a piece of brass for a job I'm working on. Went to the supplier, like Bunnings had something like it, what I needed. It was close, for about $140 for this length of brass angle section. Went to the supplier, and it was $68.
Sure.
But that included shipping to me. Like, it's just use your telephone, use the Google.
As part of the TimberCon work that I've just done, there was a box of clamps that was on back order, and they arrived this week, and it was quite a nice surprise because delivery person arrived and said, "Here's a box from Timicon." I went, wasn't expecting anything. Anyway, 4 clamps. This box weighed around 15 kilos. They are long reach clamps. Do you guys have long reach clamps in your...
No, but I know what they are.
These things are ridiculous because they're long reach and they're pretty short. They look like gigantic clamps.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask you guys, the screw mechanism is copper plated. Why would they make it out of copper?
Copper plated or solid copper, do you think?
I think it's copper plated.
Yeah, it couldn't be solid copper, it'd be too expensive.
And soft as crap.
Something with welding, maybe?
Well, a lot of things do have a copper plate. Like things like, the only example I can think of is like a belt buckle will have, like it might have a chrome or silver finish. And if you wear it long enough, you wear through to the copper plating. And then if you wear through the copper plating, it'll have like the shit steel underneath there. And it could be, I don't know why they'd go through that process, but...
It wouldn't just be aesthetic.
I suppose it's... No, but if it's copper or some kind of copper alloy, it would have resistance to corrosion. So maybe they're trying to protect the steel or something underneath.
It could be easier to clean if glue gets on it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, that's one question that I've been meaning to ask. How do you get glue off your clamps?
Hammer.
Yeah, that's right, because you use epoxy.
No, not too often. But the best trick I have, if I'm using those big, the long T-bar type ones, I just put packing tape on the bar itself.
Yeah, before.
And then when it wears off, eventually just put some more tape on it.
Yeah, doesn't really work with the kind of Bessie clamps.
No.
Oh god, mine are so clogged up with glue. I need to find a chemical solution or something.
There's a guy on YouTube. He's down in Melbourne, Cuffy. We've probably talked about Cuffy in the past.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've got it in my head that he occasionally soaks his in water overnight, which could be wrong because that might put the clamps in a bit of risk. But he, in one of his videos, went to great length he goes to great length to keep his clamps clean. And I'm almost sure there's something to do with an overnight process because your tight bond original, if you submerge it, it will break down. And that's how he does it.
When it's really cured and you get those see-through drops of really rock hard glue, that stuff typically doesn't want to move off anything. I would say maybe once you do find a solution, is that a place where you would put silicone spray, or are you going to lose friction on you?
Good question. I might try it on one. I've got one.
I don't know how the Bessie clamp works exactly. I'm not sure if it is like an F clamp style where it has little ridges on the top and bottom of the steel shaft.
Got ridges on the top of the shaft.
So the head kind of pivots a little bit, and so you're not really relying on a surface to surface friction, but it's more of a mechanical.
Yeah, that's probably mechanical enough to overcome the silicone.
So if you had some slippery crap on there, glue might not stick.
Might give it a try. I've got one that's sort of semi-broken, so I might try it on that one first.
I had, when I was in school, I had a friend whose dad was a panel beater, car sprayer type guy, and he always, silicone spray was banned from the household because it doesn't go away. It just transfers from surface to surface. Yeah. And if he ends up going to work and putting his silicone spray hands on a vehicle, they can't spray it, and that's almost impossible to get off. And so I wonder if that could be a problem as well in our line of work. If we have silicone spray around and then you rub your hands over this nice tabletop and then you try and put anything on it, it's just you're going to have these weird spots where nothing's happening.
Yeah, good point.
So I don't know.
I'll keep you posted if I find a solution.
There's a nice little tip to end off the show. Keep your silicone away from the workshop.
Yep.
And on that, I'd like to say thanks to everyone for listening. Do you guys have anything more that you want to bring up?
Not really. Well, we've got a good guest next week.
Yes.
Super
we
excited.
never do previews of the guest, so maybe we should do a preview of the guest.
Why don't you give us a bit of a rundown on him?
So we have got Wood Review's Maker of the Year for 2020, Simeon Dux, coming on. Very exciting. And of course, Robin reckons he stole another award as every winner of every...
Never going to let this die. Never going to let it go.
No, you're not. But yeah, really excited to talk to Sim. He's obviously done some incredible work. So yeah, that's going to be a good
He's
one.
in Melbourne, is he?
Yeah, he's Melbourne based as well.
So he's all locked up anyway.
Yep. And we're going to be locked up by the time we talk next time. I think that's all.
Yay!
All right.
But at least we can work. We can work during this one.
Oh, you can?
Kind of.
Are you essential?
Kind of.
Oh, sweet. Good.
Manufacturing is now deemed as essential, but
Perfect.
the fact I'm working on a big built-in job, I'm not allowed to install it in a client's house because the client lives there.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's a weird one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool. Next week's going to be good.
All right. Yep.
So to everyone listening, if you did enjoy the show, please go ahead and give us a rating on iTunes. It always does help us out. The Shop Stool Podcast is available on most podcasting apps. Joe and Brian, thanks again for hanging out, and we'll talk to everyone next week.
All right. See ya.
See you guys.